So I've tried to record this video, and I'm not very good at it. I'm not good at talking about books I love in a way that is useful, but I'm going to try. The Sword of Kaigen. My favorite book of the year. An amazing book. Okay, so perspective. I read this book in August. I read this book after being very, very depressed. Work was rough. But I buddy read this with a friend right before a vacation, and honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better book to escape into. This was the type of book that I just wanted to read, and I just wanted to read always. This was the book where I was trying to stay awake to finish it, but failed because I'm an old lady and I can't stay up late. Okay, that's what this book was to me. Okay, that's my experience with this work. Now, I'm also an epic fantasy reader. I read a lot of fantasy. Lots of it. Alright, so when I say this is one of the best fantasies I have read, and that if you love fantasy, you should read it, I mean it. Like, I can't express more that you should read this book. Now, I will say, and I will have a few trigger warnings down in the description, and I will put them way down so you won't see them by accident. So you can look, because I do think the trigger warnings are spoilers, and they will ruin your journey with the book. But if you are someone who needs that, I do think you should look. Like, I'm not saying you should, accidentally stumble upon something that would be bad for you. Like, my mom read this after me. I had to straight up tell her something that would happen in a scene so that she could be mentally prepared for it. Otherwise, she would have hated the book, sort of thing. It would have come out of nowhere for her, and she would have hated her experience. But I prepared her. Me, I just like to be hit in the face with emotions, and I just go with it. All right? So that's some disclaimers out of the way. But yeah, so why do I read fantasy? To be engaged, to be invested, to discover new magic. Yes, those are the reasons I read fantasy. I don't know if there are other ones. Was I engaged? 110%. Like I said, I stayed up late trying to read this. I was about to go on vacation. In the hour before I went on vacation, after I packed, I think my boyfriend was running late, packing stuff or working out. And I'm like, oh, no worries. I just have an hour left of the book. Let me just sit here and finish it. Because I wasn't going to read in the car. Because A, it's a little hard for me to read in cars. I could read on buses, but cars can be hard. And B, he's driving. I didn't want to be a bad car companion and, not talk. But I finished it. And it was so good. It was engaging, the entire time. The pacing, I cannot pick a part that was slow or felt frivolous in a bad way. Everything was done intentionally to tell this story, and I loved all of it. Okay? And that's another thing. This is a standalone story. That is a complete thought. You're going to leave it wanting more from this world. And unfortunately, there is a start of a young adult series in this world that I don't think will be finished, just as a heads up. But in terms of a cathartic ending to the story being told, it's wonderful. And I can't tell you what that story is, because again, I don't want to spoil the journey. But there's a character, and their arc is so wonderful. I love the arc of this character. It's great. So let's get into characters. I want to be invested in characters. We have some characters. We have this mother, Misaki. I'm pretty sure that's her name. Sometimes I forget, but if I'm wrong, the screen will tell you. She is awesome. Unfortunately, she's in a patriarchal society where she's supposed to be the docile housewife and not get involved in the military of the situation. But she actually went away to school, so she's had some insight to other cultures. She got to be more independent in her youth before being put into an arranged marriage situation. She's amazing. I love her. Top 5 female characters for sure, hands down. She has a son, Mamoru. I love Mamoru. Mamoru is amazing. I love nothing more than a talented character, a character with more power than others, who is also humble enough to take critique. I love that. I love a character who is not arrogant, who is smart but knows he has to work for that or work to be better, who can also recognize what is his role and how to be better, who can take an input and then make his own conclusions and think, who isn't just irrational and jumping to conclusions. He is one of my favorite. I think he's only 14 or 15. But I don't know if I was relating to him or if I just was surrounded by so many people in my own life who were talented at 14 or 15 but could never take critique, and I'm like, oh my god, you're not God's gift to earth, like, you can improve. But I just loved him. And yeah, so, and then the world building. It's a world that has technology, but we're in a part of the world that doesn't have all of that technology. Just like in our world, we have portions of Earth that don't have access to Wi-Fi or as much electricity or as up-to-date plumbing, etc. We're in a part of the world that is starting to get the equivalent of cell phone towers, but they don't quite have that. But they have televisions. But they rely a lot on their water magics. This is a world with like elemental magic, and we're primarily with a water elemental people, and they are the best of the best warriors. Like, their bloodlines are pretty pure, so they're pretty powerful, and they are the first line of defense for this empire, which has like an interesting political history that is given to you in such a good way. The way you are given the world building is so good. Like, it's not info dumped. You actually get part of it in a scene where a student is taking a history class, and it's even done in the way that history classes can be if you're not an auditory learner, where it's like you hear a few lines and you're distracted, and you don't really learn the history from that scene. But I just thought that scene was amazing. You hear about it more from Misaki because of her experiences in the outside world. She's like gossiping with her friends. And the side characters. All the side characters are great. I love all the side characters. I love my emotions with these characters. There's a character that you start off not liking. You're like, you're not cool. You're not great. Somehow, your emotions evolve. Like, nothing is static. Everything is earned. It's a book with stakes. It's amazing. Like I said, it is a war story. If you had issues with other war stories in the past, if you don't like series when there are, extreme consequences, look at the trigger warnings below. Or ask me directly. You can be like, is there blank in this book? I will tell you. But I don't want to tell everyone. But I love this book. It's an amazing book. The fact that I don't own this book is a crime. But I also don't love paperbacks, so I have to figure that out. I don't know if this was helpful. What is a flaw in this book? Well, if you're not an epic fantasy reader, maybe don't read it, I guess, if that's not what you like. If you don't read fantasy for the same ways I read fantasy, then yeah, maybe this won't hit for you the way you want it to. Like I said, for me, it had intriguing, well-done world building. It had characters I was invested in. I was engaged the entire time. I can't think of things I would have wanted done differently for the way I read fantasy. So for that reason, it's hard for me to come up with critiques, and for that I am sorry. Like I said, the biggest thing I could think of is if this book's not for you, is if there are certain things in plots that you don't like. And like I said, for that, check the trigger warnings or ask me directly, and I can tell you. But yeah, I would even say that, like, this is not even bad for people who haven't read fantasy before. Like, it has a prose style that is really easy to read. So maybe if you want lusher prose, that could be a problem. This is not Guy Gavriel Kay, this is not Robin Hobb, this is not Tolkien. I don't actually know what her prose is more similar to. I don't think it's quite as simple and direct as Sanderson, but it definitely wasn't an obstacle in my reading. And I hate when writing is an obstacle for me to enjoy a story. So for me, like I said, there was no barrier between me and the story. I just wanted it in my eyeballs and in my brain, and that's what happened. So yeah, with that, if you made it this far, put a mountain in the description as your emoji, because Sword of Kaigen. Or if you had any thoughts about the book or any questions, I will always take those comments. And like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.